So the Record Store Day events for the summer of 2021 went pretty well, perhaps even more so, given the fact that we're returning to normal. Kind of, sort of. I picked up some great metal and rock and punk vinyl at both events, and I'll be discussing those, as well as RSD in general, so keep watching. It's going to be a good time. So another year, another set of Record Store Day events, this time for June 12th and July 17th, 2021. I picked up a total of 10 records this time, 9 of which I'll be talking about today, and one I'm going to save for another time, and I'll talk about that at the end of this video. So I also wanted to go quickly through my own experiences with the two events. We got a return to normalcy again. The lines are back. No more lottery drawings and waiting in your car or at home. Also, the masks are gone, which is really nice. It's kind of a social thing. I showed up at 6 a.m. For both events, maybe about 10 minutes before 6. I was third in line for the June event and second in line for the July event. A lot of great people to talk to, a lot of great collectors. You get to kind of swap, what are you going to get? What are you going to get? Kind of a thing. It's a social thing. So here in Burlington, Vermont, you're definitely going to Pure Pop Records for your Record Store Day, at least this year. I know Burlington Records has celebrated in the past, and they might celebrate it in the future. We'll see. Pure Pop does it with a want list. This is a blank form, and what you do is you fill it out with all the records you want. You pick the top 2 you want, and those are the ones they try to get you, but depending on where you are in the line, you may or may not get it. When they run out of your number 1 and number 2 choices for people in front of you, they'll go to your number 3, your number 4, and so on. So it's good to fill out the whole list. Anywho, the lists are collected up until 8 a.m., and then what they do is they go back in the store and they get your 2 records ready for you, the ones you're guaranteed to get, more or less, depending on where you are in the line, of course. And then from 8 to 9, you wait a little bit more. They open up at 9 o'clock, and then they bring 5 people in at a time into the store itself, and then they sort of put you in a little line of 5, and the first person goes to the rack, gets their stuff, goes to the register, and then the second person goes to the rack, gets their stuff, and so on. And that's how they handled it. So it was nice to see that all the titles I wanted were available in the US. Also, what was interesting is a lot of the stuff I'm going to show you is both US and UK. There was a lot of overlap this year with titles, which is pretty cool. Very few exclusives to one area or the other. So let's get to all the vinyl I bought at Record Store Day events 2021. Starting with June, we have a live album from Def Leppard. This is When the Walls Came Tumbling Down, live in Oxford, 1980. This was put out by UMC. There are 4,000 copies pressed total. It is an RSD first release, which means it'll make its way out later in some other form. This is US and UK, which is pretty cool. Great little live album. It's all the songs from On Through the Night, their first album, and there are a couple other tracks as well. I'm going to talk about that momentarily. Do want to show you a few of the things you get inside of it. Obviously, there is the vinyl itself, which is classic black, and there you go. It is a 2 LP set, which is pretty cool. I'm going to show you the inner sleeves as well. Some credits, song listings, and pictures of the band. There's Joe, and then the second one has Steve and Rick. And there's the back for you. Quick look at the gatefold jacket here. Tons of cool pictures of the band back in the early 1980s. Even got Pete Willis here on guitar before he was replaced by Phil Collen. This recording was available in 2020 on their CD box set, Def Leppard The Early Years, 79-81. This is its debut on vinyl to the best of my knowledge. If you know differently, please let me know in the comments, but I'm pretty sure that's the deal here. So just to go through the track listings here, every song from On Through the Night is on this record, which is pretty cool. Also, Medicine Man is interesting. A couple of the riffs in that track later made it to Rock Rock Till You Drop from Pyromania. Likewise, with the track When the Rain Falls, a couple of those riffs made it to Let It Go, which ended up on their High and Dry album. Lady Strange is here, early version of Lady Strange. Of course, a studio version of that would also make it to High and Dry, so it's a new song, or a newer song at this time. And yeah, really great. I love every song on here. Ride Into the Sun, the final track, by the way, was on the Def Leppard EP, for those who remember that. I should also mention Good Morning Freedom. It's a song on here that I've never heard on any other Def Leppard album, so really cool to hear some Def Leppard I'd never heard before, especially from this early era. So the sound quality in this is pretty decent, much better than bootleg quality. It's definitely quite listenable. I love early Def Leppard. I love the first 3 albums dearly. After that, I can take them or leave them. Mostly leave them. So it's really cool to hear this early live material. Really psyched to get this. Next is a reissue of the 12th studio album for Stryper. This is Goddamn Evil, released by Frontiers Records. The original came out in 2018. Again, this is a reissue. 1,200 copies released, and this is an RSD exclusive for the US only. One interesting note about this record is the album title itself, Goddamn Evil. A bit of a controversy. Christian record stores, by and large, didn't stock it, as well as Walmart. Walmart wouldn't handle it at all because of the title, which is really, really strange. Vinyl variant for this one is turquoise. A really cool turquoise color. Very bright, very vibrant. Kind of dig it. The spindle hole is a little tight. I had a little bit of difficulty pushing it down onto the spindle itself. Also, the volume is a little bit low. I'm not sure if the original version had low volume. Let me know in the comments if it did, but you can just turn it up. No big deal. As for favorites on this one, I definitely dig Sorry. I think it's the best song on the album. It's also a music video, so maybe they thought it was the best song as well. Lost is really good. The Valley is a kick-ass song, as well as The Devil Doesn't Live Here. There is also an alternative version of Can't Live Without Your Love. The original version's on here, but there's an alternate version as well. It's the bonus track on this edition, but it was also on the Japanese pressing of the album. So if you have the US one and you're thinking about getting this RSD version, there is a bonus track. Maybe that's a sell point for you. Also comes in the gatefold sleeve, full lyrics, pictures of the band, and it's in yellow and black. Go figure. Of course, as I've said before, I'm not exactly a Christian, but I don't feel you necessarily need to be to enjoy Stryper. Their last 3 albums are noticeably heavier, just better in general. This is the second of the 3 newest albums. I talked about the newest album in an episode of Vinyl Hall, I believe. So yeah, check out Modern Stryper. Pretty interesting stuff. Next up is Volume 2 of the Greatest Hits albums for Goblin. This covers 1979 to 2001, released by Cinevox Records. This one's a little bit of a curiosity because it was on the US and UK list, and then it dropped off the list, but it showed up at RSD anyways. And I'm going to talk about another record that's very similar to that, but yeah, there are no numbers available, release numbers for this at all, so it's a little bit of a mystery. I've talked to record store owners. They don't know much about the story either, but there's the mystery of this record. Of course, further adding to the confusion is that there were online record dealers who were selling this before Record Store Day, so again, what gives? I do want to talk about some of the tracks on here. My 2 favorites are obviously Tenebrae. I love that movie. I love that song, as well as Nocturne. And I should explain, Goblin is a sort of 70s prog rock band, and they do a lot of music for some of the Dario Argento films back in the 70s and the 80s and on. So you're going to get a lot of movie soundtrack tracks from Goblin, and especially on this record here. There's some other great stuff on here too. Much of it's in Italian, I can't pronounce it. There is a track from Contamination. It's a great movie, Alien Contamination, it's also known as, from 1980. Other good stuff too. Yeah. Love the Goblin. I should also mention that there are 2 exclusive tracks to this record. There is a new edit for La Chiesa from 1989, as well as a medley for Non Hossano from 2001. Goblin's kind of an interesting band. There have been 25 incarnations of them. There are 4 in existence. A pretty amazing band. Again, 70s prog rock for horror movies, mostly from the 70s and 80s. Good stuff. Vinyl variant for this one is Fluorescent Green. Very nice. I should mention about the lineups of this band. Again, I mentioned there were quite a few of them. You do get a range of lineups on this record because it does cover quite a range from 79 to 2001. So keep that in mind when listening to this. This compilation also comes in a gatefold jacket. You've got a write-up of each and every track. You've also had the cover art for each and every soundtrack it's pulling from. Great movies again, Phenomena, Tenebrae, the whole lot. Great stuff. So I'm a huge fan of Dario Argento and a lot of his horror movies of the 70s and 80s, so naturally I love the Goblin music that goes along with the scores of those. I did pick up Volume 1 of this series last year for Record Store Day, so it's nice to have Volume 2, just to be a completist, but also because I love this music. Next is the 11th studio album for Japanese experimental metal band Psy. This is Heir to Despair, originally released in 2018 by Candlelight Records. This is an RSD first release, 2,500 copies total for both the US and the UK. So Psy, of course, is a bit of a tough beast to describe. They are experimental. They have strains of black metal in their music. They're a little bit avant-garde. This cover's pretty fun. Obviously, it's rather unassuming. It's not representative of the music they're in. That's obviously intentional. If you saw this in a record store and you didn't know who Psy were, you'd be like, oh, this is a nice record. I want to hear this. And of course, it's different. So vinyl variant for this reissue is purple and white merge. Very nice. I like the labels as well. My favorite track on here is definitely Homo Homini Lupus. It is track 2. Phil Anselmo does guest vocals on it. That's pretty fun. Also comes with an insert here, full lyrics, some in Japanese, some in English. So there you go there. Also, the back cover here, definitely an interesting band, to say the least. They throw a lot of different metal styles together, but it really works. Like, it's not just a bunch of disparate pieces from subgenres awkwardly stitched together. They actually have a nice flow, and they work well. So, a very unusual band, though, of course, as you'll discover if you go through their catalog. So I know this band started out as more of a purely black metal band, more or less, but I'm interested in this version of them. I like this a lot more. If you're more familiar with Psy, you should let me know in the comments what your favorite Psy album is, the next one I should check out, because I'm pretty interested in this band. I really like how odd and crazy and energetic they are. I love it. Moving on to July, we have a reissue of the 1986 debut album from hardcore legends, the Cromags. This is The Age of Quarrel, released through Rock Hotel Records. Rock Hotel Records is a sub-label of Profile. Profile was the original label for the 86 version. They've since been bought out by Sony, so there's that. There's a bit of contention with this release. This is a more or less unofficial release. It was originally on the RSD list for the US and the UK, but it got dropped from the US list, and that's probably due to some legal issues. This band has not been paid for this album in general. I know Harley and those guys are going after the label, and they're trying to work something out, so they kind of don't see a dime from this record. I do have the 1986 original. I'm going to show you that shortly because I want to go through some cover art differences and stuff. So yeah, so an unofficial release, but it kind of made its way into Record Store Day stores, so it was out there, so I grabbed it. Vinyl for this reissue is 180 gram red and black splatter with custom labels. Also came with an insert, or rather an inner sleeve, a picture of the band, and some of the lyrics. It is pretty different from the original. I just want to go through a little bit of that. I do have the original here. There are some differences. This is kind of blown up a little bit. It might have been taken from the CD, scanned and all of that, because this is pretty saturated and a little bit blurry. You can kind of see the difference in the titles. This is a lot clearer and all of that. And yeah, so I'm a little disappointed in that. Also, the picture on the back is a little blurry. It was probably pulled from the original here, the smaller picture. So yeah, but it is the Cromags, so there's that. So favorites on this record have been the same since 1986. It's the first 3 tracks. It's We Gotta Know, it's World Peace, it's Show You No Mercy. Great songs. Love these songs dearly. It's nice to have a clean copy of this to listen to. My 1986 copy that I showed you is skips. It's scratched to hell. So this is pretty cool. This is a great band, you know. They're aggressive. They're catchy. They're in your face. If you haven't heard the Cromags, you should. I mean, there's a reason why this is a hardcore classic. You can call it crossover, you can call it second wave hardcore, you can call it whatever you want, but killer album. You should have it. Next is a compilation for the Sisters of Mercy. This is their BBC sessions from 1982 to 1984, released by Merciful Release. This was released in the US and the UK, 4,000 copies, RSD exclusive. Sisters of Mercy, of course, were a very famous goth rock band, though frontman Andrew Eldritch would be loath to hear that it's called goth rock, even though that's exactly what it was. Bando is highly influential in bands like Typo Negative and Paradise Lost. They both cite Sisters of Mercy quite a bit, so there's that. This was released by Merciful Release, that's the record company of Eldritch, so it's a little bit self-released, so pretty cool. So the vinyl variant for this one is 2 LP smoky vinyl. It's kind of clear with black smoke going on. Pretty cool. Side 4 of the second record, obviously, is blank. So that's pretty fun. They could have done an etching, but they didn't. There are some very cool tracks in here. This is 3 sessions. There are 2 Peel sessions, and there's one with David Kid Jensen. Covers 82, 83, and 84. My favorites are definitely 1969, which is the Stooges cover. That's from the first session. I really love Burn. It ends the second session. And the whole third session from 1984 with John Peel is pretty amazing. So, yeah, you should check out everything on this record. It's pretty good. Of course, this is before the Sisters of Mercy went a bit commercial with albums like Floodland and especially Vision Thing. I love all eras of this band quite a bit, but I really love hearing this early material, especially the Peel sessions, which takes up 2/3 of the album as it stands. So, very cool stuff. Sisters of Mercy. Next is a reissue of Fear's 1982 debut album entitled The Record. This is put out by Runout Groove. 3,500 copies total. It's an RSD exclusive release for the US and the UK. So if you don't know about Fear, they are an American hardcore band from Los Angeles, California. They were very instrumental in the formation of hardcore back in the early 80s, especially in Southern California. Fear, of course, had that infamous Saturday Night Live appearance that was made possible by John Belushi. Lorne Michaels told John Belushi never to invite Fear to SNL again because they just made a mess of everything. Pretty cool. Also, of course, Fear is in The Decline of Western Civilization, the first Decline movie from Penelope Spheris. They're probably one of the most interesting bands in that documentary. You should probably see that. So, yeah, this reissue by Fear, pretty cool. I'm glad I got it because I only had it on tape. Here's the tape right here, the original tape I had from the 1980s. Still in okay shape, but it's nice to have it on vinyl. So let's talk about this a little bit. Vinyl variant for this reissue is clear and white mixed vinyl. There's a bit of white marbling in there, an otherwise translucent, kind of milky color. Nice pink logo for Fear, of course. Great record. I definitely have some favorites on this. Let's see. Let's Have a War is amazing. I Don't Care About You is probably my very favorite song on here. What else we got here? Camarillo, a deeper cut, but I really love it quite a bit. And I Love Living in the City, classic song. Also, the cover, We Gotta Get Out of This Place, is fun and kind of unique compared to the original, but pretty cool stuff. There's the back cover, by the way. There's the band and all of that. I should also mention there are a couple inclusions in this reissue. I definitely want to talk about the 7-inch single. This is for their infamous song, Christmas. It's pretty cool. It is a red vinyl single. It's a very short song. You can kind of see right there. There's not much to the record there. It is the clean and unclean version. One side has one. The other side has the other. The clean version is basically bleeped. So it's nice to have this. This is a reproduction of the original single, I guess. There is also a stencil in here. There it is. Of the Fear logo. So you can, I'll just do it like that. So you can spray paint the Fear logo wherever you go, because why not do that 35 plus years later, right? So sound quality on this LP as well as the single, both fantastic. I mean, really great sound, not disappointed at all. I discovered Fear in the 1980s, as I mentioned, a really great band. Singer Lee Ving was in a lot of Hollywood movies in the 1980s. He was in Flashdance. He was the sleazy club owner in Flashdance. He was also in Clue. He was in Dudes. He was in The Wildlife. It was always fun to spot Lee in movies because a lot of people probably didn't even know who he was. He was kind of this to the side actor in these movies, but it was always fun to see him. Anyways, Fear, classic hardcore band, full of spite and attitude, very catchy songs at the same time. If you haven't heard Fear, you should hear them. Absolutely. Next up is a compilation of rare tracks from British glam rock band The Sweet. This is Platinum Rare, released by Prudential Music Group. 1,500 copies in the US, 2,000 worldwide. This is an RSD exclusive release for the US and the UK. Quick look at the gatefold jacket. Obviously, this is a time period where rainbows meant something very different. It was the 1970s, after all. The Sweet were very influential on a lot of 80s glam metal bands. They obviously were alongside bands like T-Rex and the New York Dolls. A lot of bands cite those particular bands as influences. The Sweet are no exception. So this is a 2 LP collection of rough mixes and outtakes and demos and other rarities, basically from 1975 to 1981, which is pretty much the sweet spot for Sweet. And yes, I'm ashamed for even saying that right now. Vinyl variant for this collection is metallic silver. Again, 2 LP set, but they both look like this, so I'm only showing you one. Sound varies depending on the recording. Obviously, it's demos and rough mixes, so it's still listenable though. It does vary, but it's pretty listenable. Here is the track listing here. A couple favorites, obviously Ballroom Blitz, the rough mix. Everyone loves that song. Also Rebel Rouser, Steve vocals. There's lots of good stuff on here. It's a good collection. Definitely while checking out a lot of these tracks, I could hear the Queen influence all over the place. Definitely influenced by that band. This band in turn did influence other bands. I was listening to it and I was hearing a lot of influence that later made it into Hanoi Rocks. Hanoi Rocks was definitely first and foremost in my mind when I heard some of this stuff. So there's that. This is my first foray into the Sweet outside of the hits, of course. I've heard all the hits like Fox on the Run and all that. So it was pretty cool to hear this stuff, and I'm eager to hear more Sweet. I definitely like the band quite a bit. I love this era though, so it's cool either way. Next up is a live album from the Ramones. This is Triple J Live at the Wireless Capitol Theater. It was released by Rhino Records, 6,000 copies in the US, 13,000 copies worldwide. This is an RSD exclusive release for the US and the UK. So as the title suggests, this is a live album. This one is from 1980. It was recorded July 8th of that year in Sydney, Australia. The copies are numbered, by the way. I have number 228 right there. Pretty cool. The vinyl variant for this one is classic black with Sire Records logo on it. Sire carried the Ramones through many, many albums, so there you go. Favorites on here, I have a few. Definitely Blitzkrieg Bop. How can you help that one? Also, Rock and Roll High School. Love the song, love the movie a lot. And of course, I Just Want to Have Something to Do. Great songs. So sound quality in this one is decent. It's better than a bootleg. It's not as great as a commercial album live release, but you know the Ramones, they're a little bit messy. You know what to expect from them. So, of course, the Ramones are no stranger to Record Store Day. They've had releases each year for at least a few years. I did pick up the Sun Dragon Sessions a while back, and I also have the live album from New Year's Eve, 79. This is a great little record to add to that collection. I do wish it was more than one LP, but we take what we get. It's still good. And those are my Record Store Day 2021 vinyl buys. One disappointment, of course, was the bumping, if you will, of the Best of Judas Priest compilation album. Don't know why that got bumped. I do know the story about that record in general. Gull Records still owns the rights to it, as well as the first two albums. Basically what happened was that Judas Priest wasn't getting paid by the label, so they bailed ship. They jumped to CBS, which was a better deal for them anyways, so Gull Records hung on to the rights. I don't know if that factors into why this is missing. Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't, but that's at least the story behind the record. Of course, other albums got bumped from the list as well. The Mastodon album, the Tesla album, the Mr. Big album got bumped. Also, one of the Three Kings X records as well. Of course, the Cromags record did get bumped from the US list. It still remained on the UK list, and it became an unofficial release, whatever the hell that can mean. So, there's that. And I'll be honest, this year, RSD was kind of lame for a lot of us hard rock and heavy metal fans. I did buy some punk titles to sort of round out my haul, but I would have liked to have seen a lot more metal, and I think a lot of you feel the exact same way. Also, I did buy a 10th album from the July drop. I'm not discussing that here today, but I will be discussing that at the end of the year in my non-metal vinyl haul, so something to look forward to. So did you go to any of these events? Or did you stay home? Did you buy titles in the aftermarket? And how do you feel about RSD in general? I know some of you really don't like this event, for very real reasons and for some wholly invented reasons, let's be honest. Anyways, leave all of that in the comments below. Would love to hear it. So some of you might have come to my channel just looking for Record Store Day stuff and were wondering, hey, what else does this guy do? My name is Matt. This is the Accusation Network. This is a channel on metal vinyl collecting. I do videos once or twice a week, always on Mondays, sometimes on Thursdays. You should definitely check out my playlist. I do a lot more than just talk about Record Store Day. I do vinyl hauls and upcoming metal vinyl, reviews on classic albums. I do record store reports. I go to record stores and check them out. I do a lot of other stuff, so check out those playlists. And since you're here anyways, how about a like? Also subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so. Share the videos with some friends. Those are great things to do. And as always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.